Next up is an ingenious storage solution for road trippers.
Hello, Sharks. I'm Ken Hovey.
I'm Monique Kiefer.
And I'm Ryan Gay, and today we're here asking for $350,000 for 5% of our company, Flated.
What if I told you that this backpack has enough room that you can fit everything that you need to quickly and easily transform your car, truck, or SUV for your next road trip adventure?
Wherever you are right now, I need you to stop what you're doing and give some super claps for Super Ryan. Woo! Welcome, Ryan. How you doing today?
Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're so welcome. I'm glad we were able to fit it in. I'm here again in my office instead of at home in my studio, but we make it work and we fit it all in. I'm trying my best to cover all the time gaps that I have. So you were just recently on Shark Tank like 10 days ago. Before Shark Tank, what was your relationship with Shark Tank like? Did you watch it all the time? Never heard of it? I mean, obviously you guys were, you felt like it was an honor.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I started like really getting into it probably, I don't know, maybe around 2015. And, it was kind of in that point in my career where I was like a little frustrated, wanted to do something more, had always dreamt of owning my own brand and creating a new product and a new thing. And Shark Tank was something I always watched almost every week. And I'd go back to work and I'd tell Monique, who's now our CFO, I'd be like, "Did you see Shark Tank?" And she had never, ever watched the show until basically she found out that we were going to go on it. And then she was the first one to binge all of the episodes to prepare and do all of that. But no, always been a huge fan, and I've learned a lot from it and was inspiring. And, I would say really inspired me a long time ago to really start thinking about like the entrepreneurial like process and what we could start.
So that's where you guys met, was that the company that you worked at?
Yeah, so we have
all three of you work there, or?
We have a pretty unique structure. There's actually four of us that are original like co-founders of the brand. Dan Watts, who's our chief product designer and CPO, I guess his title is. We work together in the surf and the paddleboard industry, and then Monique Kiefer, who is our CFO. I've worked with her since about 2010 in the surf and paddleboard industry. And then Ken Hovey, who's our chief marketing officer. While he never worked with us at the brands, he was always one of our ambassadors, athletes, influencers, whatever you want to call it, just a content creating machine. And I've basically sponsored him at every brand I've ever worked with. So, the four of us have a lot of experience working together, and, we're all at a point where we had built a lot of brands together and made a lot of other people money. And we knew that at some point, we were going to have an idea where we could break off and do our own thing.
And I'm not going to say flatted, but Flated was that brand. And so I'm guessing I'm not the only one that would say flatted, because that was what my first impression was when I saw when I was pulling up the links onto my computer prior to hitting the play button, because I don't watch them ahead of time. It's all live. And in this case, I really didn't look at the names prior, like on some of the Shark Tank, like, sites that I'm able to get the the links and stuff from, but that was like flatted, and then you come out and it's like, oh, it's Flated, and I'm like, that makes sense. It's not what I saw in my mind.
Yeah, we get it all the time, and while we prefer not to think about an inflatable product going flat, some people have been like, oh, it makes sense because it's flat when it's in the package, and we're like, no, it's Flated. Technically, flatted would be with two T's, but whatever. And we try to correct people as quick as we can. But yeah, we fought forever over the name. I owned probably 25 different domain names when we were coming up with the idea, and it was all over the place. So, but ultimately, we wanted one word and something simple, and somehow we came up with Flated. And actually, originally, we couldn't get the domain name. So our domain to start with was getflated.com. And that's what's on our product. And that's actually our emails and all of that. But finally, we broke down last year, and we forked out some cash to buy flated.com as well.
And that's always hurts, right? It's like, man, it's just some letters and with a .com after it. And I gotta ask, as a domain name junkie myself, how many domain names do you own?
It's dwindled down. I've just recently let a bunch of expire. but I would say I still own, 10 to 20. And actually one of our original ones, I won't say what it was exactly, but I actually got a notification one day. It was like, oh, you just got $2,000 in your PayPal account. You sold a domain. And I was like, what? I thought it was scam. But it sold, and I didn't even realize I had it for sale, but it sold. And so that was a little bit of a nice surprise.
Oh wow. Okay, so yeah, I think I have about 70 total myself. It's
Yep.
Once you get started, it's like, oh, I gotta get the other spelling and this other spelling and the long form, the short form, and yeah, it's an addiction. Send help, please. With money, big sacks of money, because these things are getting expensive, man. Like $18 a year is what I'm paying. I think it's like $17.99 a year for each .com. That's not including, I have some .lives, I have some other domain, dot something at the end, and those are 50 some dollars a piece.
Yep.
So, okay, so Shark Tank, how did that come into the picture? Did you guys apply to be on Shark Tank? If so, how many times, or did they reach out to you?
We did not apply. I got a random email one day from one of the producers that had seen an article about us in Gear Patrol. And I honestly thought it was really scammy and it was something different, because I had a couple interactions previously with Kevin Harrington, who was on season 1, where he reaches out and says, hey, we're going to do this thing. I'm from Shark Tank. And then it comes back around and it's like this $20,000 plus to make a video. And it's like, just seems like you get all excited. And then all of a sudden you realize it's not really Shark Tank. So yeah, when I got the email, I quickly started doing some Googling, and I was like, that guy looks like he's legit. He's on the credits. And so we sort of started the conversation and started the process. I mean, and we had thought about it before, and my daughter always joked. She's like, Dad, you said you wouldn't go on. I said, I never said we wouldn't go on. I just said I wanted to wait until it was the right time, where we had done enough in sales and we had done enough to actually get like a proper valuation. So I would say it was a year earlier than we maybe would have preferred, but the experience was great, and we're reaping the benefits right now for sure.
Oh, that is awesome. Yeah, I mean, it's great. I think it's really cool that their producers are looking out for opportunities, right? And it's not just about whether or not you think that you're good enough to be able to apply, but them finding interesting products that fit a niche. So you guys are going down the rabbit hole of getting on the Shark Tank. So, because obviously it's a gauntlet. It's not a 5-page like, oh, sign your name here and like, cool, next you'll be on a plane next month to LA. It'll be great, awesome. Yeah. Talk about the balancing act that you guys all had to go through, because obviously you all have jobs, you have this business, and I almost feel like it kind of is almost like it almost kind of like discounts the. I've never really thought about it like this, because most entrepreneurs that come through usually have left their job, or just doing it as their only business, even if it's small, smaller. The balancing act of working a job, obviously you guys might have families and things as well, and then having this business on top of that. How did you guys work through that preparing for the show?
Well, as you'll see in the episode, we got criticized a little bit for all of us not being full-time in the company, but
we will see.
In reality, we were pretty strategic with how we set it up. We started the project in 2020 during the pandemic, when I was actually unemployed and Dan Watts was furloughed from his company, and we found ourselves with some extra time, and that's really kind of what gave us the courage and the time to actually launch the brand. We had the idea for a few years, and we're like, one day we're going to do this, one day we're going to do it, but we all had comfortable executive jobs in the outdoor industry. So 2020 was a fun time to kind of get underway with it, and we all had a little bit of extra time working from home, and but what really ended up happening was, at the beginning, it's all about getting the product going and getting the patents done, setting up the corporation. And so that really fell on Dan and Monique. And so I actually went back out, found another job to hold us over until we were actually ready to launch. So while they were doing all that back end work, and I wish this could have come out in the episode because, it was very strategic on how we did it. They were doing, a little bit more than halftime on, getting it all set up to basically get to the point where we turned our website on. And then myself as CEO and sales leader really had to back off my other job, come into the picture and sort of start taking over. So yeah, and going into, last summer, we had been selling for just about 6 months, I guess. And it was crazy. I mean, I had just left my job in March. Our sales were really starting to pick up. We had sold out already a few times and we were trying to make new sizes. We were doing all this stuff. And really, I was the only full-time employee. So when the Shark Tank application process and audition process started, I would say my coworkers took the brunt of all of that back end work to make all that happen. And I would show up for, the auditions and the Zoom meetings. But up until the very day that we walked on set, I mean, that morning I was still answering, customer service messages and doing all that because, we were trying to make money to, keep the business afloat and basically not afloat, but to build more inventory. So I wouldn't say it was a huge distraction, but it was like a definitely a lot of workload added on top of what we were trying to do with Flated as a brand.
I didn't know if you were trying to be punny there with the afloat, but
yeah.
So working through your process, what did you how did you come up with your 350,000 for 5%?
Honestly, that was an internal battle. There's 4 founders and we also have an investor. And our equity is already, pretty diluted, I would say. It's not just 1 or 2 of us. So to give a big chunk of equity away wasn't really on the table for us. And the valuation, to be totally honest, up until the night before, we were going to be actually higher than that. And we had to tell the producers and everybody when we walked on set that morning that we had changed it, just based on, some of the feedback, some of the feelings we were having, really wanting to go up there and not be, I guess, just beat up for our valuation, which we ended up getting a little bit beat up anyways. But, we dialed it back a little bit going up that morning. But really, if I was going to, look for, venture cap money or another investor, our valuation would be higher than that. And our original investor gave us, his $500,000 investment before we had made a product based on the total market size and the product idea and the innovation behind it and our IP. So, we know it has a value to it. We know that we have a proven product and proven sales. It's just a matter of going up there and, throwing out what we had done so far, but without being able to say, but wait, we sold out and we don't have enough sizes yet. And all the things that would be like, this is where we're going. And, we were happy that we were able to film in September because we knew that we had POs in hand from REI and we were just about to ship those. And so we were happy to be able to say that as another validating point to what our product was in the category that we're in.
I mean, that's a key thing. I don't think anyone has mentioned that here on the show, at least, that they changed their valuation literally the night before, or I guess the morning of. So do the producers do they push back on that at all, or is it just go ahead? Like,
from the get-go, they say it's always up to your, it's your discretion. You just got to let us know what it's going to be. Definitely if you go in there and say that you're going to ask for, $1 million for 1% and you haven't sold anything, they're probably going to be like, that's maybe not the best idea.
Makes great TV.
but yeah. So yeah, it was, it wasn't a huge shock to them, I don't think, when we went in there. I mean, there had been plenty of conversations on where we were at and what we were going to ask for. But ultimately, I think we went out there and asked for the right amount, and it was an uncomfortable amount, and we got beat up. But ultimately, you'll see the end where everybody sort of came back around, and ultimately we got an offer.
Yeah. So right before walking down the hall there, how were you? How are you feeling? What was going through your mind?
Well, I was just watching your episode yesterday with, I forget his first name, sorry, but from Nana Hats.
Yeah, Sean Adler.
Sean Adler, and then the other entrepreneurs that go up there completely by themselves, I think are like, that's must be super intimidating. Luckily for me, I was probably the most uncomfortable here, but also, and because Ken, who's over on my far right, he has a history of being on TV. He's been a weatherman in Vail for the past 20 years. So he's our guy that's always on TV. He was a huge coach for us, saying, okay, you guys got to bring up your energy. And through a bunch of our auditions, that was one thing that came back. They're like, Ryan, you got to smile more and you got to match Ken's energy. And I'm like, that is impossible to match Ken's energy. Nobody's ever going to match his energy.
Oh,
and then,
wow.
And then if you notice also, Monique's 7 months pregnant here. So she's, she was nervous about that as well.
So I honestly, in the first time watching this through, it did not occur to me. It also did not occur to me that Sweet Kiwi, which that interview just went live like an hour and 20 minutes ago, that she was 9 or 8 months pregnant out there, pitching, and it never came up in the pitch. It never came up in the interactions that they at least aired on TV. And then you combine that with Pluie, and I'm like, I wonder if they're trying to send a message to be, to subliminally send a message to people like, get pregnant, but don't bring it up, don't talk about it. And it makes it, from like, and I told her, we talked about this after we got off the air, Ahima and I, and I was like, well, I wasn't going to bring it up. Like, I didn't know if that was the case or not the case or what, but I'm not going to take a stab in the dark. If they don't mention it, I ain't bringing it up, kind of thing. So I'm glad that she was, because like rewatching it today, like just prior to talking with you, it was pretty apparent to me, like, oh, she probably was, right?
Yeah. And I think it was mentioned and probably edited out, and then you kind of notice it at the end. But yeah, it was sort of nerve wracking. But the show and the producers and everybody was super accommodating. I mean, normally, and Monique lives in San Diego, so normally if you live, close enough, they have you drive up that morning, drive back that night. But with her, they understood, so they put her up in a hotel room and, for the night before and the night after, and just they were great and super accommodating.
Oh, well, that is great to hear, because and not unexpected, because they are, as far as I'm concerned, world class at what they do in bringing and working with people on the show. So yeah, that is. I mean, it is a lot. It's a lot to ask of somebody that she said she was 7 months pregnant.
She was 7 months pregnant, but she ended up having the baby just a few weeks after that. So almost 5 weeks early. So yeah, she was ready, but it was a little early.
Oh man. Yeah. So it's just funny that that all that it was in one episode. I wonder, what was the other pitch? Now you got me curious. What was the other pitch that was on there? Was Wolf. Which also, while not about kids, it was about pet, your pet kids. So,
yep,
a nesting episode, I guess.
It is spring.
Yeah, exactly. So all right. So going into it, you guys knew that you might get beat up a little bit on your valuation, and I like that you used the word uncomfortable, because every deal should be at least a little uncomfortable. Even though I always say, like, a hard deal is a bad deal. you should feel like you're gaining and losing something at the same time on both ends, right? Because it's got to be, because you also want it to be in the forefront of their mind, right? Like you do a deal with them and it's like, it's mostly forgettable. So like, you actually close and then it's kind of like, that's why like a lot of times they don't want 5%. That's a lot, or 2%. Because it's like, yeah, it's in my portfolio, but like I'm not going to give it a whole lot of my effort or time, or even think about it because like I gave, $50,000 or $150,000, and we'll see where it goes. But
yeah, I mean, the other thing is, one thing that we thought about is, if we don't get a deal, I mean, essentially we're going on national TV evaluating our company. And so then we have to go out on the open market afterwards and be like, oh, well, it was this or that, or like, so you can't, I think you kind of have to go out there and, throw it out there on what you really think it's valued at and, either stand your ground or do what you need to do. I mean, obviously, there's always the aspect of, working with sharks and that the publicity of it is worth a lot. But you also don't want to go up there and total undervalue your company, I don't think, because it could really hurt you later when you go to look for additional investment.
Yeah. I mean, with that said, like you're also, 6 months later, or longer. I mean, when did you guys film? In July?
September.
Oh, you were September filming. Okay. So, yeah. So, I mean, it's still 6 months from when you aired. So it's like a lot can change in 6 months, especially once you actually air. Like, what was yesterday's price ain't today's price kind of thing. But yeah, I think that you guys, was it expensive? Yeah. I mean, look, we've seen it on the tank a lot where once you get to above $300,000, the odds of getting a deal are just super diminished. Like, doesn't matter how much percentage you're offering because they just don't want to part with that much money, which I think, I think for a lot of people should be eye-opening to like, instead of they're multimillionaires and billionaires, it's nothing to them. That's like, 2 days worth of lunch or something. Like it should be nothing. It's like, no, it's still a lot of money and it's their time and it's their effort and it's their belief that they believe in a product enough to want to put their name to it. So it's more complicated than just like whether or not they have, $100,000 or $150,000 or $200,000 burning a hole in their pocket. That's, to me, it's still a significant amount, even when you're talking about somebody who might be 100 millionaire, I mean, they're not all billionaires. Like, so a lot of people will say like, oh, they're all billionaires. Like, no, they're not. Yeah. That's Mark and Peter, I believe is a billionaire, but it's still a lot of money. It's just a lot of money to have to move and to have to think about.
Well, look, and last summer there was obviously a lot of changes in our economy on the stock market, and inflation and gas prices and everything, and that hits all of us. But for mega millionaires and billionaires, that can be a lot of zeros behind losses and gains.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, they made more profit during that time as well. Those gas companies, times are tough. Let me tell you, for them. Okay, so you guys seem like you're kind of striking out a little bit with the Sharks, and it really comes down to Damon. But going into the tank, did you have a shark or sharks that you had in mind that you were looking to aim for? And why?
I think we had our sharks that we thought were a good fit. We were definitely interested in, really pitching hard to Robert, knowing that he's, a car guy and he's in the automotive side. What's funny is, we make truck products and, I try to do all the research and I'm like, which one of these guys owns a truck and who is into trucks and that side of the thing. And, I knew from some previous episodes that, Mark had made some comments like, hey, look, I don't camp in the back of my truck. I sleep at the Four Seasons or whatever. So, we were pretty open. But yeah, I think we were, pitching pretty hard to Robert. We were pitching hard to Damon. We were pitching hard to Mark. We didn't feel like Lori was going to be, our price point's a little bit out of like whack with what she normally invests in. So, but but yeah, no, we were pretty open minded about it, and didn't have our hearts set specifically on really anybody, I guess.
I mean, yeah, I don't think Kevin has ever talked about camping or glamping or anything like that.
Yeah.
I don't, not to my knowledge, at least. But
one frustration we had, and we've tried really hard, is our product presents itself so differently when it's actually on a vehicle. And so we were trying to get a truck on set that was all kitted out, because that's what we normally do for trade shows and events. But we just couldn't work it out, like timing wise and set wise, on getting a vehicle in there and having it all kitted out. So we had to make, props to make it look like it was a truck and a vehicle. But we have large products when they're inflated, and we were trying to show as much as we could, but really it's a whole different experience when you see it on a nice kitted out truck. And I think that kind of hurt us a little bit. People were probably like, wait, what is that? I don't quite understand it. Because it's just a totally different experience when you see.
You handed out pillows, Ryan. You handed out pillows. Like
I know.
You're selling truck, beds and the covers, and you handed out pillows. Like, but I think it did a good job of showing like the is that like elastic bands inside of it, or how, like, what's inside of them?
Yeah, drop stitch inflatable. Essentially, it's a PVC top sheet, bottom sheet, and it's connected with thousands of synthetic fibers that are woven into the fabric. So that creates the panel, so you can make 4x8 sheets or whatever else. And as I mentioned on set, it's been used in paddle boards for a long time. That's where my business partners and I have the experience using it, and we've sold hundreds of thousands of paddle boards in our experience. And it was like, that was the moment where we're like, what else can we make with this material? Because we know it performs, we know it solves a problem. And so that's what we wanted to show them with the material, because, we bring those to events and our dealers have them, and people are like, oh, it's not just a normal, let's call it air mattress inflatable that, is going to pop after a while. It's a lot different.
Toy.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Now, do those fibers help keep it together, like, or as far as like help prevent it from popping, or is that the PVC's job?
It's both. But yeah, they help to keep it just solid, and it gives it really the rigidity, so it'll stand up, and you can put weight on the roof of it, and you can stand between us, put it between a span and stand on the panel itself.
Wow, okay, that's crazy.
So
have you thought about making tents out of this stuff?
Well, shh.
Okay, all right, ding ding. Let's go on my bell here.
Funny history is it was actually developed in the 60s by Goodyear, and they were inventing the inflato plane, and listeners can Google that. There's some fun YouTube videos about it. They were trying to make an inflatable airplane using inflatable drop stitch for the wings. And they found that this material was had the highest strength to weight ratio of anything that they had developed. So super lightweight, and they could make basically an airplane wing out of it. And the idea was to be able to drop a collapsed airplane into the jungle and have somebody, fly to safety with it, or, just super lightweight planes in general. And, if you watch some of those videos, it's pretty crazy. Those old test pilots they have some cojones on them, I'll tell you that.
You got that right. Wow, I've never heard of this before. That is pretty fascinating. So, but like, clearly it worked, right? Like, this plane looks like maybe it's on the ground, I don't know.
There's videos of it in the air.
Yeah, this one is at least 15 feet off the ground.
Yeah.
Wow. But I guess it just never took off. I wasn't trying to be funny, but interesting. Yeah, I'll have to look more into that. That is really, really cool. So you guys, you have this product, and it comes down to Damon, and he's looking, a really kind of complex deal compared to what normally, you would normally see from the Sharks. Wanting 8% of every sale is a lot. I mean, that's not a dollar amount. It might be like one of the only times that I know of, at least, that they used a percentage of each sale instead of a flat dollar rate for it.
Yeah, he definitely threw us for a loop when he threw out that offer, especially coming from him. We expected to hear it from Kevin, and we had some pretty simple math in our head of, okay, what are we going to do as far as equity? What would we do in the case of a royalty? But when he threw that out, I mean, those guys, I'll give it to them. They're freaking smart, and they do their math really quick. And, they're all talking back and forth, and all of a sudden numbers are coming at you, and you're standing up there and you're like, whoa, I don't have my calculator here. I can't do this in my head as fast as you guys are doing it on paper.
Yeah.
So it was definitely unexpected. But you see in the video, we kind of go back, and I talked to Monique, and Monique, as we went up there, she's our CFO. She's all things financial. And she was like, we're not going up there and taking a royalty deal of any kind. But excuse me, sorry. When the equity was off the table, all of a sudden we looked at each other and we said, well, this still allows us to go out and, look for additional funding at some point, for equity. And then, so we're not having to dilute ourselves even further. So it really became attractive to us at the moment, when it was no equity, but just a royalty. And we were, just kind of thinking about it as like another salesman commission or something. And but he threw us for a loop on that one. We were not expecting it, and expecting a royalty offer coming from Damon specifically.
Yeah, I don't think most would. He's done, a couple, I think. I'm not 100% sure on that over the years, but the point that you were saying, like they have pen and paper and they're able to crunch those numbers. I mean, that's one thing. That's one thing. So I always get it, or sometimes I get it in the comments like, oh, you got this pen. What's the pen for, or whatever? But it's because I'm taking notes, right? And the reason I'm taking notes isn't because I'm a shark. It's because I don't want to miss out on information and forget information and things of that nature. And you combine that with I'm watching the 8-minute version. They're watching the hour, 45 minutes to an hour and a half, sometimes more than that version. So they have a little more time to, crunch things where the camera isn't just on them to like figure out that and then hit pause and like make a comment, based upon this math I just did here in my head / on the paper, like blah, 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 and do all that within a 15-minute video. Yeah. 50-minute video when they're taking up 8+ minutes of that video. So it's tough. I mean, I know my grandfather was really good like that. He could do all those kinds of math, but like 8%, I'd be like, oh man, like, all right, well, let's do 10% and then I could try to work my way back to at least get me in the ballpark. Yeah. And then hope that I did the math right in the moment when I'm making these. I mean, obviously, deals can be negotiated through the due diligence process and all that stuff. But you want to make sure that you're representing yourself well on TV, to your point, because there's other people that are going to be watching this that are like, "Ooh, I want to get involved, Flated. Like, I want to invest. I want to be part of the team." And you don't want to be misrepresenting it for the long term.
Yeah, and I couldn't even do the math quick enough in my head what that exactly meant per unit. And so my response was trying to point out that, we do have a high dollar item. So it's a high margin dollar, item. And so a percentage, 8 is a lot. And, 5 in perpetuity is a lot of dollars per unit. But yeah, I couldn't do the math that quick in my head. So I was just kind of throwing that out there.
So you guys ultimately take Damon's deal, and you guys leave. You head back home. What were some of the first things you guys did, to prepare, for potentially, because obviously you aren't guaranteed to air, to potentially air on Shark Tank in the 6 months leading up to it actually airing?
It's funny because, as everybody's mentioned that's, been on here is, you film and they're like, okay, that was great. See ya. And, there's obviously communication happening between, somebody that you've made a deal with or not. And, so that's going, but the whole time, there's always that, warning of like, depending on how things work out, you may or may not air. And it could be any time between November and May. And so you're like, okay. And so we were doing a lot, but, ultimately we didn't change like the course of like our normal business that much. We kind of just kept on going as if we were running the business without, having that. And so all of our projections for this year were based off of not airing. And like our inventory purchases and everything were just based off of what we were going to be purchasing anyways. And, with the hopes that, if we get it, that's going to be icing on the cake. But, really we got home, we went back to work, we just started grinding, definitely started looking at our website a little bit more to maybe optimize that, make it better in case, there was some pressure on our factory to, get them ramped up and make sure we had inventory coming in and left Asia before Chinese New Year. So there was some things that we were doing but it wasn't all that different than what we would have been doing anyways, I guess. And then, when we got the call that we could, that it was going to be on and we could promote it, it was like, oh shit, now is when, and that actually caused a little bit more of a, freak out panic of like, okay, do we have all of our ducks in a row? Are we ready for this influx and, traffic to our website? And, so in the 3 weeks leading up to it, we worked our butts off and, added a customer service person, which is officially our first employee. Did a lot of work on the website and just our automated, communication flows and some things like that to make sure, we could try to capture as much of the traffic as we could.
That's great. And what did you guys wind up doing for a watch party?
Well, so we have an interesting dynamic is in the fact that I'm in Missoula, Montana. And so I'm up here and, Ken is in Colorado and Monique and Dan are in San Diego Monique and Dan are in San Diego. So we essentially had 3 different watch parties and, they were trying to get me to go to San Diego. And I was like, look, if I'm not here on air night, my grandmother is going to kill me because she wants to be there and be standing next to me when this thing goes on national TV. So we all had our own individual watch parties with our family and friends. And, the one we had here in Missoula was probably 120 plus strong. Really good group. The local news was out, and it's funny because the local ABC anchorman is married to my cousin, so he's interviewing me. It's on the TV screens in the bar where we're watching it, and everybody's cheering, and everybody thinks it's going crazy. And we have Hannah, who's our new customer service girl. She's on the corner on the computer watching the traffic go up, and it was a wild night, and it was great. And then Dan and Monique had a really nice big watch party in San Diego, and then Ken had a little bit of a smaller, intimate one, and where he lives in Eagle, Colorado.
Wow, that's great. That's awesome. You guys all live, in different parts of the country, and yet are still able to make it all work. That's awesome.
Yep. It's a modern company. People are like, where are you based? And we're like, well, technically San Diego, but now we opened an office here in Missoula, which is going to be our customer service and R&D center. And so, we're all fighting for where the home base is going to be, but I'm voting Missoula, Montana.
I mean, I'm just saying, is like, where are you based? West of the Mississippi. This is where we are.
Yeah.
So when you guys after you aired, have you guys been able to close your deal yet with Damon, or are you still in like due diligence?
There's lots going on there, but it's all good. Damon's team is awesome, and it's been everything positive. So I'll leave it right there.
Okay, no, that's fine. That's a good enough answer for me. I'm not, not trying to pry is the word I should use. But it's good. It's good to know that you guys are still working together and hopefully hammer it out and get it. I mean, look, some of these times these deals take over a year and a half to get done, especially as you guys are continuing to grow. And I'm sure it's more complicated because you have people in multiple states that it's not just you in one state, like trying to nail it all down, and especially with a complicated deal like following how many percent, royalty deal on a percentage. I mean, that alone, you got to be able to calculate. You got to be able to calculate those factors, because especially with sales and things like that, it's not necessarily a straight answer of how much.
Yep.
So, how did you guys come across my video or my channel?
It was funny. I think I was just, I actually got myself really sick this past week. So after,
oh, good job.
After the airing, I was going into the airing. I had like this little bit of a sniffle and a cough, and I was taking it easy, drinking all my juices and all the stuff that I normally do to prevent myself from getting sick. Felt fine that weekend, but we had family in town, and it was a celebratory weekend, let's just say. Went back to work Monday, just grinded all day Monday, trying to follow up with as many inquiries as I could. Tuesday felt pretty good, and then about Tuesday at lunch, I just fell to pieces, and all of a sudden got feverish and had a cough.
Aww.
My voice is still coming back. That's why I'm drinking seltzers and trying to hydrate and all that. But I ultimately laid in bed for 2 days, and I think I really just wore myself into the ground over the past month. And so on what should have been, like, as a sales guy, like my biggest week of my life, I actually had to turn my phone off for 2 days and just lay in bed to try to recover, because I was not healthy, and had to get through that. So anyways, I think I was, on one of the days just kind of trying to relax and going through all the, YouTube stuff. And I saw your video pop up and watched it. And my wife's like, "Are you watching it again?" I'm like, "No, this is different." And what's funny is I noticed in the comments, Ken's son actually responded back to something in there. So Ken's kids were watching on it. And so, yeah, I watched it and reached out, and then started watching a bunch of your past videos and really enjoyed them. So I'm glad we could get on, so quickly.
Yeah, no, I'm glad that you enjoyed it. And yeah, it's always Friday nights with Shark Tank are always fun, because I get all the pitches up the night of. And I mean, it doesn't do great for being able to hang out with my wife on a Friday night, but it's we make up for it on other nights of the week. And I that's awesome that you came across it separately from Ken's kids, who I do recall seeing them post about it in the comments, comment on it on the video. But no, that I'm sorry to hear that you got sick. That is terrible. But I want to applaud you for taking the time to be mindful of that, and being like, look, I need to feel better. Like, there's only so much that we can push through, and the longer we just keep pushing through, the more longer that's going to take to get better and create bigger problems for us, there. So that's good on you for making that decision.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a confident sales guy, and I normally probably wouldn't admit this, but I truly looked back and I was like, man, I wore myself down. And, not only, physically, but also just emotionally, going into that thing, you don't know how it's going to look. You don't know what the response is going to be, trying to be, great to everybody, talk to everybody, do everything right. And, it was a lot. It was the busiest month of my life for sure. And, it's like showing your baby out on national TV and having all these people come to a watch party here in town to essentially be there for me was really not my style. I felt guilty at my wedding having all those people come there, but at least then I can say that they were coming to see my wife. But so yeah, it was out of my comfort zone, but really just realized that I'd really run myself down. And for all the entrepreneurs out there, make sure you're taking care of yourself.
Yeah, you can't. You always got to put your mask on first, right? Like
Yep.
on the airplane. So you got to be able to take care of yourself before you can take care of the sales, before you can take care of your team and your family and everybody else that is depending on you. And I think that's, I know exactly what what you're saying. Running yourself to the ground because it just one thing leads to the next thing, leads to the next thing, and I know I'm always constantly trying to push my calendar back because in the past I've like gone redlined it and then way past where the red line ended to just try to maximize and get as much as I possibly can. It's one of the reasons I don't usually do interviews here in my office here at the shop is because I don't want to redline myself, but I also know that there's a lot of people like every episode there's more and more people from each episode are reaching out sooner and sooner. And I right now, I mean, you saw my schedule, Ryan. There's one day a week because like if I let it go more than that, then I'll just be like, oh yeah, I'll just won't eat lunch anymore. I'll just take all my lunch, noon. I'll just schedule noons, and I'll never go eat lunch, and I'll never get away from the office for at least a half hour to an hour, and it's it wears on you, especially because I mean I don't know. Do you have kids, Ryan?
I do. Yeah, I have 3 kids, and so yeah, it's a lot, and
It is.
now I finally have an office. But when you're working from home in this like sort of pandemic work from home life, it's really turned into more. No, you live at the office, and there's always something going on. And so, luckily, I identified it late last fall. I was like, hey, I'm just like sitting on my computer until midnight every night, and I'm like not doing anything for myself. And so finally, this winter, I joined a couple of like men's league ski racing on Wednesday nights, and
Oh, that's awesome.
and then I did Tuesday night shotgun trap shooting with a team, and that really just helped me, force myself to like get off my computer for a couple hours, get a little bit of a break. It was on a team, so I had to show up. I couldn't just like have an excuse not to go, and really like mentally, it really really helped me just kind of like disconnect for a few, recharge a little bit, and the next morning I felt I came back way stronger and a little bit fresher. So and that was really hard for me to commit to because I was like, this is such a big winner for us, but you gotta carve out a little bit of time to keep the batteries charged.
100%. How old are your kids?
3 kids, 7, 15, and 19.
Oh, okay. So you got all right. So you got older. See, I got a 5 and a 7-year-old. So
Yeah.
it's softball, it's t-ball, it's swimming lessons, piano, and karate, and soon to be a musical. That's I don't even know, God, how many days a week we're gonna have to show up for that thing. So it's always something. Like I used to play hockey too. Like five. It's been 5 years since my son was born. I stopped because there was just too much to do with a newborn, plus my daughter was 2, and then COVID, and I was like, yeah, I could go back. I want to go back because they're older now, but I didn't really want to be around a bunch of people up on top of a bunch of sweaty guys and stuff like, it's like I'll wait a little while.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, yeah, I kind of get the itch. I want to do it, but then I'm like, the thing is. And I know this, Ryan, as you never know what time you're going to wake up, right? Like the goal is to wake up at like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. And I might be able to do that if my kid don't get up at 1 o'clock in the morning or 2 o'clock in the morning and wake me up first, right?
Yeah.
And they'll go back to sleep, but I generally won't. So, then it's like, oh, how am I going to wake up at 4? Then I'm still going to wake up at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock. And, it might take me, 2 or 3 hours if I'm lucky to go back to sleep. So,
Right.
It's just a constant battle. It's a constant war, getting enough sleep so that I can go and do the things, go long run. Like I do distance running too. So, half marathon distance to full sometimes, but it's been a while since I've done full.
Yeah.
But it's tough. Like that takes time. I'm not a 8-minute a mile runner like I once was a long time ago. Like once upon a time. So it takes a while to do 8-10 miles.
Yeah, I mean, all that, life, and especially when you have kids going on, it's a constant juggle. And all 4 of us in the company, we all have younger kids, and so we're all in it. but we're all family people, and we all know when, you know, we're not available for one reason or another, because generally it's because we're doing something with the kids.
Yeah, it's and I think that's important. I mean, I think it's super important. Like I leave here at the shop and I'll leave, here at 3 o'clock, 3:30, because today it's going to be 3:30, so I can go home, get changed, eat dinner, and get my daughter off to softball, and then after that, hang out with the kids for an hour or two before we put them up to bed. So and I'm there for everything. Like I try to make my because I'm able to. I'm gonna be there, and I think that it's important for people to remember that like. We only get one shot at all this, right? So like they're only going to be 3 once, they're only going to be 4 once, 5 once, 6 once, and you can make some. I make some concessions here and there, but I make it a point to, like, even if I'm going to do all this other stuff, like I have to be there I want to be there for the practices. I want to be there to help them and then help my wife too, because if one loses their mind, you got at least somebody's got to be there to help the other one, and in the process, while one's handling the one that's losing their mind. So,
oh yeah, yes, it's spring break right now. So yesterday I had my 7-year-old and our 11-month-old black lab puppy in the office, and they were just running around crazy the whole day. I'm like, oh, it wouldn't have been a good day for a podcast, I'll tell you that.
Oh, I'm glad that they're not there at the moment. Yeah, our spring break is in next week. This is 2 weeks. 2 weeks from now. But yeah. So Ryan, how can everybody go and get their own not flatted but flated air topper? Or you guys got mattresses and other stuff as well?
Yeah, so our air topper has definitely been our premier product, which is the inflatable truck topper. But as you're seeing there, the air carrier is our most universal product, which is an inflatable rooftop cargo carrier that'll essentially fit on almost any vehicle. And then the air deck is a raised platform that goes in the back of a pickup truck that creates a sleeping platform, but also usable storage space underneath. And so the whole idea of our system for the truck, at least, is, for the guy or gal that has a truck that needs their truck to be a truck most of the time, but can inflate our products, install them quickly on the vehicle, and turn their everyday, work truck into an adventure rig for the weekend or for hunting season or for road trips or whatever it be. So, it's not for everybody, but it solves a huge problem for a lot. And, our hashtag is eliminate yard art because, generally, these you'll drive around, especially here in Missoula, Montana, you'll see, truck toppers, old fiberglass truck toppers on the side of houses on sawhorses, because they're really hard to take off. You have to have, you and 3 buddies, and, where do you put them? So generally they're in people's yards, HOA nightmare. And so, it's and even the cargo boxes, people have a hard plastic cargo box, and when you take it off, it's either hanging on the roof of your garage or it's on the side of your house. So we're just trying to come up, with products that, exist already, but we can make them in inflatable technology, and, just solves a different problem for people. And our loyal fans are just diehards. We got a great, tribe already. All of our early adopters are all they've helped us develop and dial in our products even more. We have a Facebook, group that is a Flated Owners Group, and they go back and forth about how they're using them and where they're going, and kind of like hacks and different ways to make it better. And we've just learned a lot from how our customers are actually using our products out there in the world.
Now, one thing is, have the prices changed since you're airing? Because I thought that this was $3,500 for the topper, and I could have swore that the air deck was cheaper than $549.
No, what they asked on stage was what it retailed for, which is around on average about $1,800. So they started about $1,500.
Maybe I misremember.
And they asked what a normal top would go for. So if you go,
but I thought that was like $5,000. Oh no, that is $3,500 to $5,000, right?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Okay. And this was $1,800. That's where I was getting confused. Right. Okay. No, that is really cool. So I mean, the air carrier. So that I mean, that's so you're supposed to like put trunks or not trunk like baggage up there.
Yeah, anything from luggage or to skis to obviously you see there on surfboards. Um, we took one on a family vacation to Costa Rica last year because we just checked it on the airplane. When you get there, you usually rent like a small SUV. You can't fit the whole family in, so you throw that on the roof and then you put all your luggage in there, and just creates extra cargo storage.
I mean, it looks great. It looks really great. I think so we have a trip coming up in June, and I actually bought like a luggage holder, and I want to say that was like $100, but I don't know how many times I'll ever actually use it either. Like if I was constantly out camping or doing stuff, I think I would. And I haven't put it together yet, so we'll see when we get to June how much of a pain in the butt this is. But I'm gonna guess that this is gonna be a lot easier because of the vergility, like the fact that it once you pump it up, it stays. It's a box, right? Instead of, I guess it's mostly fabric. what I have.
Yeah, you probably got a rooftop cargo bag.
Yes, it holds like four. It can hold like 4 suitcases, which. Yep. I mean, we have 7 people driving down to Florida, so we don't have any room in the minivan at that point or too much room for other things like that.
So what's funny, a little bit of backstory on our company is, we were all focused on truck stuff. And one day in a meeting, Monique, she's like, wait, guys, I'm the only one without a truck here. And I just drove to Colorado in my SUV, and I put one of those cargo bags on the roof of the car, and it was really hard to load. It flapped the whole time. It scratched the roof of my car, and all of our stuff got wet. Is there any way we could do a rooftop cargo carrier, inflatable? And we all looked at each other. We're like, oh, that sounds like a really good idea. So it was Monique's idea to make that, and she really identified the problem that she doesn't have a truck like all of us guys do in the company, and so that's why we created that. And yeah, I mean, the bags are great. And the only thing I'll tell you is you definitely want to fill them up as much as possible so you don't have it flapping around up there. With our cargo carrier, you can have 1 suitcase in there if you need to, or 1 carton of eggs, and you can still it still holds its rigidity up there.
Yeah, I mean, ours will definitely be filled to the max. It's gonna be heavy, because like I said, we got 4. There's 2. It's us and another family, so a 3. So it's gonna be tight. It's gonna be a nice long trip. I mean, it's like 15 hours to like Orlando. So yeah, it'll be cozy.
well, let me know if you want to try out an air carrier if it doesn't all fit in your bag.
Well, I tell you what, I don't know what weekend I have to figure that out, but I probably should figure it out before we get to the day of and start trying to put all the bags in. Well, I'm probably just going to do it the night before, but yeah, I will let you know, because I might want to take you up on that to borrow one. Again, I'm not a big camper or anything like that, so for me, it was like what's the cheapest thing I could do just to be able to fit the bags, and I'm sure it's gonna kill my gas mileage in the minivan. I mean, not that 7 people wouldn't already hurt, but yeah, I'm sure it's gonna be felt.
It'll affect it, that's for sure.
Ryan, I really appreciate you taking the time today to be here with us. It's an absolute pleasure. I'd love to have you on in the future. Is any last thoughts you'd like to share before we wrap up here?
No, I mean, just thanks for having us. And, it's been a wild ride, a great experience. Anytime I'm, a part of something where I can look at a different business and really try to understand it. And, I was really, really impressed with the Shark Tank, Sony, the production, the brand Shark Tank, and how they run that thing is a dialed machine of a business. Just a lot of people involved, but very organized, awesome people. We had a blast. still have contacts with our original, producers that we worked with, and just super supportive all around. I mean, nothing bad about our experience whatsoever. And, would really encourage anybody to go for it. If they have an idea or a new brand or a new product, I mean, it doesn't ever hurt to give it a go. And I would encourage anybody to go after it.
I would agree. Absolutely. It sure seems that way to me from all the people that I've gotten to talk to. And yeah, I absolutely, that 100%. So, Ryan, I do appreciate it. Please pass my congratulations to the rest of your team, and hopefully maybe we can get them on in a year or so with you, and we'll do a follow up on how things have been going since. But in the meantime, I appreciate you making it all the way to the end of this video and being a part of the super community. If you haven't watched their pitch, click on up here. If not, I'll see you down in the video below. Take care and go be super.
See you guys.